A rock star ate my hamster.
Greetings collectors and welcome to today's retro game review. In today's episode, we've got something for lovers of 1980s music culture in this hidden gem, Rockstar Ate My Hamster. The 80s was a happening time in the music industry. Giants of the industry such as Michael Jackson, Madonna, Prince, Bowie, George Michael were all household names and at the forefront of music culture. Also around this time, sim or management games such as Football Manager and SimCity were also becoming a popular genre with gamers. There was a music sim-based hole in the market, and Codemasters managed to fill it with a somewhat satirical look at the industry, with elements of parody thrown in for good measure. You'll work with a small sleazy outfit run by Cecil Pitt. Your task is to win 4 golden records by the expert management skills of your new band. The first step is to get the band together. You'll have the option of up to 4 artists, but bear in mind you will have to pay each of them a salary. There's a very nostalgic lineup here: Stiff Pilchard, Wacky Jacko, and oh dear, even a Gary Glitter doppelganger. You'll have to be careful here, as the talent can range from bargain basement to top dollar prices. Next, you'll have to give them some gear. Again, you can save money by skimping on the equipment, or pay the big bucks for the best equipment around. Already, the game is leading you into having to balance the potential success of the band against the early outlay costs. Next, you'll need to give your band a name. The Diskettes, wonderful, I can feel that number 1 in the bag already. From here, you'll open up some new options. Since the band is new, you'll want to have them practice together a little, to at least get some sort of quality in their performances. Be careful though, you still need to pay your stars, so can't afford them too much time in practice sessions. It's for this reason you're going to have to take them out on the road. You can take them to the local bars or even stadiums. You'll have to judge the level of interest though, as you won't be able to rent out a stadium if nobody turns up. It's best to start small, get some interest in the band, go back and practice and repeat until you've established them as a credible group. It's at this point you should have at least some money in the bank and a standard good enough to record your first tracks. Typically, recording an album at this stage makes sense, as you can release singles from it. So, it's into the studio. You can listen in on the performances and name the tracks as you see fit. This stage is reasonably important, as you'll only want the best for the album. So, there we have it. Alright Computer is good to go. So it's at this point that you can either practice, play more gigs, or release an album or a single. For now, I'll just go for a medium-sized gig to fill the bank up a bit. An album launch doesn't come cheap. With some sufficient traction for the band, it's time to release our first track for the album. You'll be able to make a music video to help boost its profile. Again, at this stage, be careful with your money. You can go for the cheap option and have your assistant Clive direct, or pay top dollar for Steven Cheeseburger. You'll also be able to select the theme from some very strange choices. I quite like the idea of really unreal puppets. So, there you have it. Your music is being released to the public. You'll now have to wait until the weekly Popular Hit Parade comes round to see how you're doing. There's a very British sense of humour throughout the game. It's that subtle blend of where satire becomes parody. Many of the chart toppers will be based on real-life 80s bands. It's quite charming to look back on this game all these years later. Games like Rockstar Ate My Hamster just don't come around too often these days. Throughout the game, you'll be offered endorsements, some good, some bad. It keeps the game interesting, and your fortunes could soon change for better or for worse. In the meantime, a bit of practice and some supporting gigs should see you improve your band. With your music now in the charts, it's perhaps time to release Alright Computer, the album. the aim being to drip feed the other singles to sustain the album sales. At this point, it may also be worth investing in some publicity for the band. This can either go well or not so well, and will have an effect on your sales. Once your band starts getting noticed, you'll no doubt get some interest from sponsors. Be careful not to take the first offer here, as you may run the risk of passing up a better deal later on. At the same time though, don't pass up on all of the offers, otherwise you may be too late to take any investment at all. The diskettes are now proudly sponsored by Joker-Cola. Drink a joke. You'll also notice at this point that the newspapers will be keen to publish the stories of the day. Sometimes you're winning, and at other times you're not. There are some classic headlines here that never get old. The tabloid culture itself comes from the nonsense of the British tabloids of the 1980s. In particular, the game features the paper The Stun, which is a clear reference to the influence of the Sun newspaper. For those of you living outside the UK, The Sun is a typical tabloid paper full of, shall we say, less than serious journalism at times. It panders to the more sensational stories of the day, and the real-life headline, Freddie Starr ate my hamster, is also the inspiration for the game's title. This is fairly much the scope of the game. You'll be running successful tours and watching those sales figures increase in the bottom right of the screen. There's something very addictive about Rockstar Ate My Hamster. By the nature of management games, there are elements of repetition. However, there's enough content here to make the game feel a lot fuller than it probably is. Once you start to hit the big time, your artists will ask for pay rises or even suggest art direction for the concerts. You'll need to keep their demands under control whilst not denying them too many times, otherwise they will quit on you and it's game over. To help reduce their demands, it's good to occasionally give them a gift. There were several releases of Rockstar Ate My Hamster. The budget Amiga version comes in a classic Codemasters plastic case. However, there are big box first editions, some even include trading cards and additional paperwork. The standard Commodore Amiga release is very well executed with a solid tabloid feel to it. Just to continue the satire, there's a whole page dedicated to a fictional TV schedule. Some of the entries here are just amazing. On ITV at 9 o'clock, First Among Sequels, episode 105 of this gripping miniseries. Or how about the late film, The Spy Who Came In With a Cold, described as a thrilling spy tale about the plot to sell Vic Synek's plans to the Russians. Stun rating, not to be sneezed at. The schedule in itself is well worth the read, and another good reason to continue collecting the physical version of retro games. In terms of price, around £5 is about right for today's market. Outside of the UK, this one is a little harder to track down, so expect to have to import this item. So, what's the verdict? A number one chart topper or a flop? I have to say that this is a game that grows on you. It's simple, yet does everything you need it to do. The 80s nostalgia, combined with the humour of the main characters and general British sense of humour, make this game very appealing. If you are looking for a management game with a difference, then this is it. It's smart and something not found elsewhere. The gameplay certainly won't satisfy the most serious sim lover, and if you're too young to remember the 80s, then some of the humour will no doubt be lost on you. If you are a child of the 80s looking for a nostalgic trip of managerial nonsense, then Rockstar Ate My Hamster really hits the spot. It's easy enough to learn on your first playthrough, but has enough permutations and ways of playing the game that really extend the life of this one. The conversations between Clive and Cecil are well crafted and hold up really well in terms of defining the characters. There are only simple graphics here, but you really do get the sense that you are running this operation from a grotty little office somewhere. Rockstar Ate My Hamster is a cosy little simulator / management game. It's not going to ring true as a must-have game for everyone, but for those that played it back in the day, this is an excellent trip down memory lane. Right, I'm off to read the papers. Oh no. Hello again, I hope you enjoyed today's show and thank you for the view. Remember, you can always comment, like, subscribe and find us on the social media sites below. Happy collecting!